Asking questions is synonymous with being alive. And the Catholic Church is going to say that the human person, as a religious being, is going to naturally ask questions because God allowed us and made us in such a way that we would ask those questions so that we could find out who He is and ultimately who we are in the grand scheme of life. In the Catechism, paragraph 31, it says, "Created in God's image and called to know and love Him, the person who seeks God discovers certain ways of coming to know Him. These are also called proofs for the existence of God." Not in the sense of proofs in the natural sciences, but rather in the sense of converging and convincing arguments, which allow us to attain certainty about the truth. And there's a couple of examples that are given. One, the world, and two, the human person. So the world. So starting from movement becoming contingency and the world's order and beauty, one can come to a knowledge of God as the origin and the end of the universe. And then they quote St. Augustine here, who issues this challenging question. So question the beauty of the earth, question the beauty of the sea, question the beauty of the air, distending and diffusing itself, question the beauty of the sky, question all these realities. I'll respond, see, we are beautiful. Their beauty is a profession, and these beauties are subject to change. Who made them if not the beautiful one, who is not subject to change? So this idea of asking questions is synonymous with what it means to be a human person. And the desires that we have for goodness and beauty and truth are placed within us by God, who wants us to know who He is. Now, we're going to differentiate the basic vast majority of the human populace from those who are subject to and privileged to the covenants in divine revelation. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But suffice it to say, if you just did some sort of a brief cursory look at ways that people have tried to prove God's existence, you would find a few very famous proofs. In a book by Peter Kreeft called the Summa on the Summa, he does a small treatment of Aquinas' proofs for God's existence. And he wrestles it down to 5 primary proofs. 1, motion. Because we see motion, there must be a prime mover, of whom God is. 2, causality. There must be an uncaused cause. 3, possibility. There must be a necessary being. 4, degrees of perfection. There must be a most perfect being. And 5, order. There must be an ordering mind. Now, we could spend a lot of time talking about, does God exist? But I'm basically taking this assumption, you're in a Foundations of Catholicism course, that all of you in some form and fashion have a basic understanding of who God is. But it's good for us to place ourselves in the context of the grand scheme of the human existence. And Nostra Aetate allows us to do that effectively. Basically, the Vatican II documents has a specific document dealing with the declaration of the relation of the Church to non-Christian religions, Nostra Aetate. And in it, it begins to go through a series of basic points for the human person. All men form but one community, right? This is so because all stem from one stock which God created to people the entire earth. And then it goes on and says, men look to their different religions for an answer to the unsolved riddles of human existence. The problems that weigh heavily on the hearts of men are the same today as in ages past. What is man? What is the meaning and purpose of life? What is upright behavior and what is sinful? Where does suffering originate and what end does it serve? How can genuine happiness be found? And what happens at death? What is judgment? What reward follows death? And finally, what is the ultimate mystery beyond human explanation, which embraces our entire existence, from which we take our origin and towards which we tend? And I love this about our church, that she allows us to be human. And as we look at the world and all of its religions, acknowledging from the Catechism that the human person is a religious being, that we've always had this desire to place ourselves in the context of what it means to be alive, that there must be something more as we just walk outside and we look at the world in its splendor, right? You see the stars in the sky and it's powerful and it's beautiful. And remember, the human person was the second example the Catechism gives, that the human person longs for beauty and goodness and truth. And so as a result of these deep longings in these questions, we begin to wrestle with what it means to be here. Like, who are we? Who made us in this way that would cause us to long for something greater than ourselves?